Life has an uncanny knack for tossing unexpected moments into our paths, moments that nudge us off the course we thought we were on. My name is Ethan, a 28-year-old graphic designer who recently traded the quiet charm of Portland, Oregon for the electric pulse of Chicago after scoring a dream job at a cutting-edge creative agency. Between navigating a new apartment, deciphering the city's sprawling transit system, and adapting to Chicago's relentless energy, I faced what seemed like a mundane task, choosing a new primary care physician. I never could have predicted that this routine decision would unravel into an experience that would shift the very ground beneath me. I've always been the sort who dodged doctors unless it was unavoidable. A bottle of ibuprofen and the occasional walk-in clinic visit had always sufficed. But my new job's insurance plan required a full physical within 3 months of starting. After procrastinating as long as I could, one crisp October evening, I finally sat down with my laptop and opened the provider directory. That's when I stumbled across Dr. Elias Navarro. His profile was striking, a graduate of Johns Hopkins, published in several prestigious medical journals, and a slew of patient reviews that glowed with praise. But what caught my eye was his specialization in inclusive healthcare, particularly for the LGBTQ+ community. As a queer man who'd endured more than a few uncomfortable, even judgmental medical visits in the past, that detail felt like a beacon of trust. The next week, I found myself standing outside his clinic, a sleek, modern building nestled in Chicago's bustling loop. Its glass exterior shimmered under the morning sun, reflecting the city's skyline. Inside, the space was a far cry from the cold clinical offices I was used to. Warm wood tones lined the walls, soft jazz hummed in the background, and a faint scent of eucalyptus lingered in the air. It felt more like a high-end spa than a doctor's office. "Mr. Harper?" The receptionist's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. "Dr. Navarro is ready for you." I followed her down a hallway adorned with vibrant, abstract murals until she ushered me into a corner office bathed in natural light. There he was, standing by a minimalist desk, flipping through what I assumed was my chart. Dr. Elias Navarro was tall, easily 6'2", with a lean, athletic build that filled out his tailored white coat. His dark hair, neatly swept back, had a few strands of silver that caught the light. When he looked up, his eyes, deep hazel, sharp yet warm, locked onto mine. For a split second, the room seemed to shrink, and I forgot why I was there. "Ethan," he said, stepping forward with a smile that was both professional and disarming. "Welcome. I'm Dr. Navarro." His handshake was firm, steady, but there was a fleeting moment where his fingers brushed mine, lingering just a beat longer than expected. A subtle spark shot through me, catching me off guard. "I see you're new to Chicago," he said, his voice smooth with a faint trace of a southern drawl that softened the edges of his words. He gestured to a chair beside his desk. "Must be quite a change from Portland." "Yeah," I replied, settling into the seat, my voice steadier than I felt. "It's been about 6 weeks. Moved for work, and I'm still figuring out how to keep up with this city." "Graphic design, right?" he said, glancing at my file before meeting my eyes again. "That explains the precision in your intake forms. Not everyone includes their caffeine intake down to the exact milligrams." I laughed, a little heat creeping into my cheeks. "Force of habit. I'm used to obsessing over details, color codes, fonts, pixel alignments." His smile widened, warm and genuine. "That's a good trait. Makes my job easier when patients are thorough. Shall we get started?" The exam began, but my focus wasn't on the routine. It was on him. Dr. Navarro moved with a quiet confidence, every gesture deliberate yet effortless. When he wrapped the blood pressure cuff around my arm, the warmth of his fingers brushed my skin, sending a faint jolt through me. His cologne, a subtle blend of sandalwood and something crisp, like vetiver, filled the air between us. "Your blood pressure's a touch high," he noted, his brow furrowing slightly as he studied the monitor. "Nothing concerning, but are you feeling nervous?" "Medical offices can do that to people." I swallowed, forcing a casual tone. "Yeah, I'm not a fan of doctor visits. They're usually impersonal." His gaze softened, and for a moment his professionalism seemed to give way to something more human. I get that. Let's take a minute before we dive in. It might help you relax. He leaned back in his chair, his posture open, inviting. Tell me about your work. What brought you to Chicago? What followed wasn't a medical consultation. It was a conversation. For the next 15 minutes, we talked about my move, the chaos of the city, the pressure of my new role at the agency. I shared how the transition felt like jumping into a river mid-current, thrilling but overwhelming. He listened, really listened, his hazel eyes steady, his questions thoughtful. He shared a bit about himself, too, how he'd moved to Chicago 5 years ago from Atlanta, chasing a career opportunity. His warmth, his presence, made the sterile exam room feel like a coffee shop where two people were just connecting. Then, with a gentle shift in tone, he stood. All right, Ethan, let's move forward with the physical. You can change into this. He handed me a neatly folded gown and nodded toward a small bathroom off the office. Remove your clothes, but keep your undergarments on. In the bathroom, I caught my reflection in the mirror as I undressed. Years of running and the occasional gym session had kept me fit, but under the harsh fluorescent light, every small flaw felt exposed. Slipping into the thin gown, I felt vulnerable in a way that wasn't just physical. When I stepped back into the office, Dr. Navarro's expression was professional, but I caught a fleeting glance, a quick flicker of his eyes over me before he met my gaze with calm neutrality. Please take a seat on the exam table, he said, gesturing to the paper-covered surface. I climbed up, the gown shifting slightly, leaving me hyper-aware of every inch of exposed skin. The exam began with the familiar routine, checking my ears, throat, breathing. But every touch carried a charge. When he pressed the cold stethoscope to my chest, his other hand rested lightly on my shoulder, steadying me. The warmth of his palm seeped through the thin gown, grounding yet electric. Deep breath, he said, his voice low, closer than necessary. I complied, my pulse racing with each inhale. His hand slid slightly, resting on my upper back, and I felt the air shift between us. Your heart rate's elevated, he observed, his tone measured but carrying a hint of curiosity. Still nervous? I opened my mouth to answer, but our eyes met, and the words caught in my throat. The room felt smaller, the air heavier with something unspoken. He cleared his throat, stepping back slightly. Lie back, please. I'll check your abdomen. Stepping back slightly. Lie back, please. I'll check your abdomen. The paper crinkled beneath me as I reclined, the gown shifting higher on my thighs. His hands, now gloved, moved with precision along my abdomen, pressing gently but firmly. Each touch sent a ripple through me, my breath hitching despite my efforts to stay calm. The room was too warm, my skin prickling under his steady gaze. Everything feels normal, he said after a moment, his voice quieter, rougher around the edges. He snapped off his gloves, the sound sharp in the silence. But I noticed some tension in your posture. Do you get discomfort from long hours at your desk? Sometimes, I admitted, my voice uneven. Neck and shoulders, mostly. He nodded, stepping behind me. Sit up for me. I'd like to check your back. His hands, now ungloved, pressed firmly against my shoulders, the direct contact startling yet grounding. His fingers worked into the knots of tension along my upper back, and I couldn't suppress a small sound, a mix of relief and something else. Does that hurt? He asked, his voice low, his breath close enough to stir the hair at the nape of my neck. No, I murmured. It feels good. For a moment his hands stilled. The air between us thickened, his breathing slower, heavier. Ethan, he said almost to himself, the word carrying a weight that wasn't entirely professional. I turned slightly, catching his gaze. His hazel eyes held an intensity that made my chest tighten. Maybe this doesn't have to be just professional, I said softly, the words slipping out before I could stop them. The silence that followed was electric, heavy with possibility. His hands lingered on my shoulders, then slid slowly down my arms, hesitant but deliberate. This isn't appropriate, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, though he didn't pull away. Then stop, I replied, my tone steady but challenging. His jaw tightened, conflict flickering across his face. Then, with a slow exhale, he stepped back, running a hand through his hair. "We need to keep this professional," he said, though the regret in his voice was unmistakable. "Let's finish the exam." The rest of the checkup unfolded with careful professionalism, but the undercurrent between us never faded. Every glance, every brush of his hand carried the weight of what we'd almost let slip. When I returned to his office after dressing, my mind was a tangle of emotions. Dr. Navarro sat at his desk, typing notes, but he looked up as I entered, his expression guarded yet warm. Medically, "You're in great shape," he said, his tone even, "but I'd recommend finding another primary care provider going forward. I can suggest a few colleagues." I nodded, a pang of disappointment hitting harder than I expected. Then before I could stop myself, I said, "What if I wanted to continue this? Not here, maybe over drinks somewhere else?" He studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, reaching for his notepad, he scribbled something and handed it to me. "This is my personal number," he said quietly. "I'm off duty this weekend." I took the paper, my fingers brushing his, and the spark from earlier flared again. As I left the office, the Chicago wind hitting my face, I felt the weight of that small piece of paper in my pocket. A promise of something new, something that had already begun to shift the direction of my life. After that fateful appointment, I knew I should walk away. But that evening, I found myself at a cozy little bistro just a few blocks from the hospital. Jordan, sans lab coat and formal title, just Jordan as he preferred, was already seated, looking effortlessly charming in jeans and a simple button-down. He seemed even more approachable than the composed expert I'd encountered earlier that day. "I've never crossed this line before," he confessed, idly twirling his spoon in his tea. 15 years in medicine, and I've always maintained strict boundaries between my professional and personal worlds. "What made today different?" I asked, leaning forward curiously. He offered a shy, endearing grin. "It's you, your openness, your confidence." I felt an instant spark, something rare that I haven't encountered with any other patient. We chatted for what felt like eternity. He opened up about his aspiration to launch a wellness center for underserved communities, his upbringing in Chicago, and the struggles of coming out in a conservative med school environment. "I envision a place where everyone feels accepted," he said quietly, "where judgment has no place." As the bistro's candles flickered low, we weren't ready to part ways. The cool fall breeze enveloped us as we strolled through the dimly lit avenues, our arms occasionally grazing. "My condo is nearby," Jordan suggested tentatively, his tone laced with anticipation. "If you'd like to come over for a nightcap, no pressure, just more conversation." His place was on the 15th floor of a contemporary tower, offering panoramic views of the bustling city below. The interior was sleek yet inviting, anatomy books mingled with photography collections and travel mementos. "Scotch?" he offered, grabbing a bottle from the cabinet. I agreed, observing his fluid, at-ease movements, far from the structured demeanor at the clinic. We lounged on his plush sectional, the urban lights twinkling like stars outside. Topics shifted seamlessly from urban design to literature to the eccentricities of metropolitan life. The Scotch warmed us, dissolving any remaining awkwardness until we were inches apart. "I keep replaying what happened in the office," Jordan murmured, his voice husky. "I've never allowed things to escalate like that." "You held back admirably," I reassured him softly. "If anything, it showed your control," he chuckled lightly, a bit embarrassed. "It took everything I had." His gaze spoke volumes beyond words. When his fingers intertwined with mine, I sensed a subtle shake in his grip, a mix of nerves and desire. "We can't pretend to be just physician and client after this," he whispered, his face so near I could feel his exhale. "I wouldn't want to," I responded. Our initial kiss was gentle, exploratory, a mutual affirmation. His lips were soft, carrying a hint of the Scotch, and in that instant the external world faded. One hand cupped my cheek while the other drew me in, eliminating any gap. The kiss intensified, passion overtaking caution. When he pulled away, his breathing was ragged. "Are you certain?" he questioned, his tone laced with doubt. Instead of replying verbally, I pulled him nearer, my fingers venturing under his shirt to the heat of his torso. He let out a soft, surrendering gasp, and with that, his clinical facade shattered entirely. What ensued was a cascade of sensations, shared chuckles, and raw intimacy. The rigid roles of doctor and patient evaporated, replaced by authentic bonds. Every look held meaning, every caress resonated profoundly. Jordan appeared renewed, more genuine, more exposed than the refined specialist I'd first known. His aura was captivating, making separation unthinkable. The city vanished beyond his walls, supplanted by the ambient glow from the expansive windows. Hours melted as we delved into each other in a manner both bold and predestined. His every murmur, every grin brimmed with an indefinable yet undeniable essence. I felt truly understood, profoundly so, leaving me exhilarated. We migrated to his bedroom, a serene retreat high above the streets, illuminated by the distant neon haze. No traces of his job lingered here, only a man embracing emotion. Jordan's caresses shifted from diagnostic to devotional, filled with curiosity, respect, and yearning. His voice, deep and faltering, conveyed both desire and wonder, vowing to explore me not as a practitioner, but as a partner invested deeply. The evening evolved into a harmony of unity, each giggle, each inhale, each brief interlude weaving into an indelible tapestry. I committed to memory the cadence of his pulse, the comfort of his palm on mine, the way his gaze lingered as if in disbelief. As the fervor subsided, we lay entwined in tranquil silence, the metropolis humming faintly around us. Our synchronized breaths hinted at unspoken truths our thoughts hadn't yet grasped. Jordan eventually chuckled softly, bemused. I placed my hand on his chest, sensing the quickened beat. "Far superior to any routine visit," I joked lightly, prompting another airy laugh. Serenity enveloped us, though underlying it was the gravity of our actions, the crossed thresholds, the implications, the future. What originated as a standard check-in had morphed into an inescapable force, vibrant, intricate, and vitally real. "You ought to switch to Dr. Ramirez," Jordan suggested after a stretch, his mouth grazing my forehead. "He's outstanding and will prioritize your well-being impeccably." His advice was sensible, essential, yet his embrace tightened, betraying his reluctance. "Ever the responsible healer," I quipped, appreciating his meticulous nature. "Have you considered our path forward?" he inquired, leaning on his elbow to meet my eyes squarely. His deep green gaze held steady. "Truthfully, it's consumed my thoughts since entering your office," I confessed. "This transcends mere spark for me, Jordan." His expression softened, revealing vulnerability. "It's mutual, profoundly so. It stands apart from anything else." I grasped his sentiment precisely. Despite our unconventional start, the link was irrefutable, delving beyond superficial allure. "I aim to handle this correctly," he went on. "Genuine outings, shared moments free of charts and sterile settings. I yearn to truly know you." "I'd love that," I grinned, drawing him into another kiss. That evening extended into deep dialogues, anecdotes, and mutual comfort. Jordan recounted his youthful ambition to heal, influenced by his father's chronic illness. I revealed my fervor for digital media, crafting narratives that connected and motivated. As sunrise painted the skyline in hues of orange and lavender, Jordan brewed tea and we stood at the window, his arms enveloping me from behind as the urban pulse quickened. "Join me for brunch," he breathed into my ear. "I whip up a stellar omelet." "Only if you done that silly chef's hat," I bantered, turning in his hold. His laughter was hearty and free. "Agreed, but remember, culinary protocols are no joke." The ensuing weeks dissolved into a whirlwind of ardor and revelation. Jordan and I established a seamless pattern, seizing every free instant. His demanding shifts as a doctor were grueling, yet he prioritized us. My belongings subtly infiltrated his space, A jacket here, shoes there. One afternoon, amid a tight deadline at my studio, a package arrived. Lunch from my go-to sushi joint. Tucked inside, fuel up properly. Healer's directive. Until later. M. It evolved into our ritual. Subtle acts threading through our routines. He'd bookmark tech articles for my inspiration. I'd scribble digital art ideas on his napkins absent-mindedly. Bit by bit, we constructed a foundation that felt authentic. Naturally, hurdles arose. The healthcare circle was tight-knit, and rumors soon circulated about our origins. Jordan confronted them with poise, affirming our bond while emphasizing ethical steps. Redirecting my care quelled the gossip, but not our devotion. One twilight, nestled on his balcony, Jordan confided, "I've never felt this content." The carnal draw remained potent, but the soulful closeness astonished us. He shared his burdens, the toll of exhaustion, patient losses, his goal for a youth-focused mental health hub. I reciprocated with my insecurities, strained family bonds, and aspirations yet pursued. A particular evening lingers sharply. Post-passion, sweat-slicked and entwined, Jordan's finger outlined my features. "Live with me," he proposed abruptly, yet earnestly. "It's swift, I know, but mornings without you are empty." His assurance ignited excitement. "Certain about this?" I murmured. "My standing stems from expertise," he smiled. "But I'm also deeply in love, and I won't conceal it." That admission reshaped us. Cohabitation wasn't a plunge, it was organic. My vibrant, eclectic decor harmonized with his minimalist vibe. My gadgets nestled beside his journals. Daily life enriched our tie, witnessing his morning rituals precise and habitual. Him observing my late-night edits, offering tea and massages. Our rapport grew instinctive, adventurous. His anatomical expertise, fused with intimate knowledge of me, sparked unforgettable encounters. We christened every nook of the condo, including his study, where reports yielded to fervent diversions. "You're corrupting me," he jested repeatedly, reorganizing his workspace. "This area will forever lack formality." 4 months post-move, twists emerged. During a major campaign rollout, Jordan grew elusive. Secretive calls, evasive alibis, altered schedules. I resisted paranoia, but doubts crept. Then, one dusk, he summoned me to a midtown locale. It unveiled a revamped suite, vacant yet brimming with potential. "Opinions?" he queried, eyeing my reaction as I explored. "It's stellar," I replied genuinely. "Lighting, flow, prime for a center." "Exactly," he beamed, producing a dossier. "I've pursued this quietly. Recall my youth wellness dream?" He paused, then forged ahead. "I aim to realize it, and I'd love He paused, then forged ahead. "I aim to realize it, and I'd love your media branding input." Stunned, not solely by the concept, but the faith it embodied. "Us collaborating?" "Everything with you," Jordan affirmed resolutely. "In existence, affection, vocation. Your creativity elevates my mission." That hub became our joint endeavor. Months poured in, merging my visual storytelling with his holistic care ethos. Interactive displays, serene palettes, engaging layouts. We crafted a haven for young minds seeking support. Amidst, we forged more, a existence, destiny, alliance unforeseen yet fated. His zeal was contagious, fine-tuning programs while I honed promotional elements. Evenings at home often detoured into embraces and beyond. The eve prior to launch, we lingered in the finished venue, entwined. Walls in tranquil tones I'd selected, accented by motivational murals from emerging artists. Therapy spaces blended coziness and expertise. The lounge evoked a supportive den, not a cold facility. "Flawless," Jordan breathed, holding me tighter. "Like your first visit to my practice," he added tenderly. "You mean when you valiantly upheld decorum?" I ribbed. He chortled, then pivoted me toward him, demeanor grave. Swiftly he knelt, a velvet case materializing. "Michael, this year has been extraordinary. You've actualized my career visions and fulfilled my heart's desires. Marry me?" The band was elegant, Titanium with an inner inscription, "Connection Cures." "Yes," I choked out amid joyful tears, hauling him up for an all-encompassing kiss. That night, in private revelry, I marveled how a mere consultation spiraled here. Jordan's touch, assured and affectionate, revisited cherished terrains. "You know," he hummed against my collarbone, "I never adequately expressed thanks for selecting me as your doc." I grinned, clutching him nearer. "You've shown ample appreciation, but more wouldn't hurt." His lips quirked on my flesh before sealing mine. As we united, I recognized this surpassed lust. It was perpetual, intertwining us unimaginably. Come morning, inaugurating the center, I observed Jordan greet initial visitors with the empathy that first captivated me. His essence exuded refuge, inclusion, dedication. Now our shared glances held no veils, just assurance, collaboration, adoration. We discovered our harmony, aiding others while cultivating our shared path.